The most spiritually mature thing that you can do is not stay consistent with who you were 5 years ago. If you are consistent in the same, you're not growing, my friends. The most spiritually mature thing that you can do is to be radically honest with who you are today, even when it contradicts who you were yesterday. Shame wants you to be really, really loyal to your past, but truth wants you loyal to your current alignment with the divine. I have a question for you that I'm inviting you to just sit with for a second before you answer it in your head. Have you ever felt embarrassed for growing, for changing? Not embarrassed for necessarily messing up or failing for something and doing something, but embarrassed for changing, for no longer being who you used to be, for no longer believing maybe something that you used to believe. Maybe you have felt embarrassed because you are no longer standing by something that you used to teach or preach. I mean, it could even be you've changed political parties along the way. Or maybe you've just bailed on politics altogether. This is not a conversation about politics at all. I'm just using it as an example. But perhaps there was a stance that you used to really, really like put a stake in the ground on. And today you have a completely different viewpoint. If you have ever even felt a flicker of, oh gosh, like, yeah, that inside of you, like that feeling that I'm talking about, hang with me for today's conversation because it's what we're surrendering today. You're coming along with me inside of a very real dynamic that I myself have been experiencing. I've experienced it and I see it holds back a lot of people. And we're not here to hold back, my friends. We're here to grow and expand and evolve and ascend. So here's what I've been noticing in my own life. I'm bringing it to you in real time, as I often do, because that's how I roll. I'm really real. And I invite you along my own growth edge. We don't want to wait to bring awareness to something until it's all cleaned up and packaged up with a bow, right? That's not how I roll. And if I did that, I'm not sure that I would have this podcast. I'm not sure that we would be on episode, I don't know what we are on, like 60 something. I'm bringing you that real thing while it's still like warm out of the oven. So a little background on me. I have spent so many years of my life believing that I was searching for healing. It was something I had to search for. I'm 51. I've probably been on that journey for 30 years. I was in my early 20s when I first started trying to heal and fix myself, when I had a lot of physiological symptoms showing up for me. And I searched everywhere, high and wide. I dove really, really deep into nutrition, into functional medicine, certifications like naturopathy. I dove so deep into theology, thinking I would find all my answers there. And if I could just get it right, then I would be right. I searched in biohacking, the biohacking world, spending an exorbitant amount of money, thinking my answers would be there. I searched over and over and over again to become a better version of myself. And I ended up building an entire business on pieces of that search. I would say the bulk of my business for a long time was centered around functional medicine. That's what I had found had moved the needle the most in my health up until that point. And it made a lot of sense to me. And it enabled me to go deeper with so many of my clients. And I stood on the rooftop and I shouted its praises. It was the be all end all. And I'm not at all saying that functional medicine isn't great and really helpful and life-changing for a lot of people. That's not the conversation I'm having here with you today at all. But what I didn't realize then was that underneath every single one of those searches was a quieter longing inside of me. I wasn't actually looking for another answer. I thought I was. I wasn't actually looking for another modality or another framework or more letters after my name with more credentials. I thought I was, but I wasn't. What I was really looking for was home. Home inside of me. And here's the part that no one really warns you about. When you finally start finding home, when your message, and maybe your message comes through in a business like mine, but maybe it doesn't, it looks completely different. And when your whole way of seeing the world starts to actually evolve toward that coming home instead of away from it, there's this whisper that starts to show up. It's this little voice that shows up for me when I'm about to say something that contradicts something that I used to say, or when I pivot my business in a way that maybe surprises people, or when I use my voice in a way that I've never used my voice before. And I start speaking what feels like my truth, but I was the person that didn't speak truth in the past. I was the person that morphed into what I perceived other people wanted me to be. Or maybe it's when I'm standing by a belief that today, that in the past is so contradictory to a belief that I stood on in the past. And this is what the whisper kind of sounds like for me. It's, who do you really think you are now? Or what are people going to think of you, Jen? You owe it to them. To what? To what? Say the same? Make them feel comfortable? Because I used to stand on something that I don't stand on today? That I'm saying something opposite? I'm not allowed to change, right? But I hear that voice. And the real gut punch version for me is, you were wrong then. And people are going to catch you in your wrongness. So if you were wrong because you've changed, then who's going to say you're not wrong now? Ugh. That right there, my friend, is shame. That's shame. It's sneaky, it's quiet, it gets dressed up like humility sometimes, and sometimes it gets dressed up like caution, just warning you. But I'm here to tell you it's shame. And I want to pull it out into the light for all of us today, because I guarantee you, if it's showing up for me after 30 years of chasing healing and doing a lot of deep inner work, especially over, I'd say, the last 5-7 years, I guarantee it's showing up for you. I know it's showing up for you. I see it in people. And it holds us back. So let's talk about what shame actually is and why it loves to show up when we're growing. I think we throw the word shame around and we don't necessarily slow down enough to really feel into what it's actually doing inside of us. Guilt says, I did something wrong, right? So that's a conviction. But shame says, I am something wrong. Can you see the difference? Like, we're human beings, so we absolutely do sometimes do things wrong. We make mistakes. We fail at things. That's being human. But shame has a different voice. Shame is the I am. It's an identity. So guilt is about behavior, but shame is, again, about identity. And that really matters because when shame is attaching itself to our growth, it's not saying that program that you built 5 years ago wasn't your best work. It's whispering something so much more dangerous and cruel. It's saying the fact that you've changed proves that you can't be trusted. It proves that you were wrong then, or that you were a fraud and now you're a fraud now. It proves that your voice isn't dependable. Ugh, again, like we could feel that. And here's the part for me that kept me so small for so long. It was my deep, deep belief underneath everything that I was inherently wrong. That was my deep, deep, deep core wound, I would say. It's not that I did all things wrong. It was that I was wrong. And I know there are a lot of people out there who carry a very, very similar wound. It spoke to me that there was something at my core that was inherently flawed, and it needed to be hidden. It needed to be managed or perfected before it was safe to be shown to the world. So when you carry a belief like that, maybe it's that you just are inherently wrong. You're always going to fuck up. You're always going to screw up. Evolving becomes really, really terrifying. Terrifying. We will do anything and everything to protect ourselves from being seen as wrong, because that will reinforce the inherent beliefs that we already have about ourselves. So this might show up for us in overfunctioning, in people pleasing, in avoiding conflict, in being a dismissive avoidant, right? And that's an attachment style. Because every time you grow, every time you say, I see something differently now, or I'm showing up differently in my life right now, or in a relationship right now, it doesn't feel expansive. It feels like evidence for the thing that you already secretly believed about yourself. That fear for me kept me so small. It kept me really, really quiet in rooms where I actually had something very truthful to say. But I didn't say it. I shoved it all down. And that became emotional congestion inside of me that was ripping my gut apart, literally, too. It kept nodding along with me when there were things that I no longer fully agreed with, because disagreeing or changing felt like it was going to expose me, as if I were standing in a room buck naked. And here's what I really, really want to emphasize here. Shame does not show up loudest most of the time. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up as the hesitation before you speak, before you hit publish on something. It's the over-explaining. How many of us over-explain to other people? We're like, I got it, and you're still explaining, or you're arguing with them, and they're like, I'm not arguing with you, right? It's the apology that is tucked into our voice, in our tone, before we've actually even started to speak, because we're looking for the thing we've done wrong. So we're already apologizing for ourselves. It's the little edit that we make to soften the truth that didn't actually need softening. That ego, all of that is the ego using shame as a whip. Ego does not want us evolving. Ego wants us really predictable, right? And it wires our nervous system for sameness and safety. And I've said this many, many times in this podcast, safe is same to the nervous system. So if we change and we grow and we evolve, it's going to freak the nervous system out and it's really uncomfortable. And ego's like, oh, we never want to be uncomfortable. No, we have to always be comfortable, right? And so we bypass changing. So sneaky. Ego wants you the way you were because the way you have been known feels really, really safe, even when known is small. And I see people justifying this all the time. You know, I'm not actually going to unpack that anymore because I'm just going to let it sit. I've observed it, but yeah, I don't know. It's just, honestly, I think it's fine. I'll just let God prompt me if he wants me to do differently. But we don't actually ever end up doing differently because it's really uncomfortable, right? Because ego is like, no. And nervous system's like, ah. So we just stay, we hide under our own excuses. So the real work of coming home is getting very aware of where things like shame are showing up for us. So this entire show, as you know, is called The Daily Surrender. And if you've been with me for any amount of time, you know what I mean when I say home. So home is not a literal place. It's not a place in the sky. Sometimes we will refer to someone who's passing over, who's passed over and transitioned, like they're going home. It's a state of being. So it's not false to say that they're in a state of being in the heavenly realm, but home really, truly is a person. It's you. It's you. You're home. You're home for you. I'm home for me. And it's the you that existed before the world got its hands on you, before you were told how to sit, how to speak, how much space you were allowed to take up, what was too much, what was too loud, what was too extra, what was too honest, right? That's all of the programming and conditioning that we get very early on when we come in. When we're told we have to be a good girls don't argue, good girls don't upset daddy, good girls don't contradict mom, right? I mean, there's a million different ways that each of us get programmed, and we take it on and it starts to shape our identity and our beliefs about ourselves. And this very much is the deeper work that I do with clients who really want to get to the underbelly of this. And we sometimes use like very powerful sacred medicine like MDMA to quiet the voice in the amygdala, because the amygdala in the brain is constantly sounding this alarm. It's like a fear response, like, no, don't threaten the ego. Don't threaten the narrative. Don't actually even look at it, because this is what my identity is built on. And we just fight for our right to stay the same. And most of us have actually never met that person who's fully home. We've met a version of that person that the world has had their influence on, that the world has shaped. We've met the version that has learned perhaps to shrink in the right rooms and perform in other rooms and stay really quiet in the rooms where our truth might cost us something. Midlife, for me, has been this really incredible undoing kind of house renovation. So it's been like gutting a house down to its studs. The intention for me has never been to destroy the house. I mean, destroying all of me is saying that all of me is just wrong and broken, and that my creator and my creator's creation in me is just wrong and broken. We have been renovating this house of mine to remember, to find what was actually structurally there all along underneath all the additions that somebody else built onto me without my permission. And what I'm becoming, what I'm very actively and currently becoming, is not what I already fully am, because, to be honest, I'm still very much in it. I am becoming a woman who is fully comfortable and fully free in her skin. I'm not 100% there, but I'm getting there. I'm a lot further along today than I was last year, 10 years ago, 30 years ago. I don't even know who I was. I'm a woman who today is learning to use her voice without apology, who's not backing down from a truth just because it's really inconvenient or unpopular or different from what she said last year. I used to be so afraid of getting it wrong, like absolutely terrified, like shit your pants kind of terrified. And underneath that fear was this belief that I was just really, really inherently wrong. So therefore I stayed very small. I was really, really careful. I was constantly scanning everybody's body language, trying to perceive what they thought I should be or how I should act, or should I speak or should I not speak? Oh, it's actually a gift of mine to be so observant and to be able to read the emotional energy of a room, to read the energy of a room, to read the energy of people. But man, did I use it against myself. I stayed so quiet in moments when I really, really wanted to speak. And it, did a number. Talk about like energy block in my throat chakra. Man, my thyroid, no matter how much thyroid hormone support I took and all the gut work and liver work and thyroid cofactors I would shove down my throat, it wasn't budging. It would perplex my doctors. Or God, Jen, you are on a high dose of thyroid hormone. And do you know when I started doing this deeper work and shifting things, my thyroid shifted? My numbers got better, like almost out of the blue. I didn't change anything physiologically. Lord knows I was chasing that one for like well over a decade. It was when I realized for myself that I'm not here to play small, and I got really fierce about not doing that anymore, that things started to change. Because I really did start to see that I am an expression of the divine. And when I hold myself back, when I shrink my voice, when I water down my truth and I apologize for changing and growing and evolving and being me, I'm actually not being humble at all. I'm limiting God's expression through me. I am actually limiting the limitless. Like what? So I am no longer available for that. I'm absolutely no longer available for that. So I get really, really uncomfortable. I feel resistance. I even hear the whispers of shame, and I keep going. I keep going. And I am not at all saying this from a place of finished, arrived, I'm done. I get to kick my feet up. I am really saying it from the same growth edge that I think I've been playing for a long time. It's just that I stretch myself more and more and more. I've been doing yoga. I went back to yoga in January of this year, 2026, as a very regular practice, not just a here and there thing. I recommitted myself. I go to 3 to 5 times a week to an actual class. So it's fully challenging me. So I'm very dropped in. And I use my mat as an analogy for life because I meet myself on it. And anybody who's ever done yoga, you know that maybe you find a new position, or it's a stretch or a hold. And a good instructor will instruct you to find your edge right where maybe you're going to topple over, or right where it's just too painful. Like you don't want to be in pain, right? But you want it to be uncomfortable, and you hold there. But if you keep showing up for that same edge, that edge is going to stretch you. And before you know it, you're doing things that you never thought you could do. That's how it works with this too. It's the same thing. It's just we're doing it not in a physical way. So let's bring this back to you. I think that's really important because this episode is not just about my process here. I want you walking away with your own recognition today. So shame in changing might be showing up for you if you feel this pull to explain or defend why you believe something differently now than you did a year ago. Like you owe people an apology for being different, growing, and changing. I'm going to give a little side note here to something. Maybe I'll do a whole other podcast on this because it's something that I've really come to embrace. Certainty is really dangerous. When we become very certain on something, like we are so certain, we have now stopped having a growth mindset. When we are absolutely certain, for instance, I see this a lot in religious communities. I am so certain that I know everything there is to know about God. This dogma, this doctrine, this theology is it. Like this is the Bible, period. And it keeps people stuck. It limits the limitless God. That's dangerous. That's just dangerous. So certainty, again, in anything keeps us out of a growth mindset. So that has actually encouraged me a lot to stretch myself, to be very, very open, to be open to growing and learning and evolving. So when I do, I'm like, oh, okay, that's normal. It's okay. It's good. So you want to notice when you've stopped sharing your perhaps evolving truth out loud because you're really scared someone's going to say, well, that's not what you used to believe. You're wrong. As if consistency of belief were the highest virtue ever instead of honesty. Interesting, isn't it? Maybe you find yourself clinging to an old identity. Maybe it's just around certain groups of people, but there's an old identity. You may have had an old title, an old way of, say, doing business or being in relationships. There's an old version of your faith or your body or your role in your family that you're clinging to. And it's not because it's still true for you. It's because letting go of it feels like admitting that you were a fraud back then or you were wrong, right? Maybe you have your wrong thing like I did. Maybe you feel really guilty for outgrowing people. That is a big one. I actually had a coaching call today with a client who was sharing how guilty she feels, that she is at this beautiful stage in her life. She's in midlife. She's becoming more and more and more aware. We've actually done a couple freedom journeys together. We're continuing to coach. And man, is she waking up and coming home. But what is she struggling with the most? Relationships, because they're evolving, growing, changing, and some of them are expiring. She's starting to become really intolerant to the patterns in these relationships that she used to tolerate because she was abandoning herself. And she's no longer abandoning herself, but she feels so guilty. Shouldn't I be friends with the same person that I've been friends with for 20 years? Not necessarily, right? So it could be that you've got old friend groups that just don't click with you anymore, or maybe you run a business like me and there's an old business model that just doesn't work. There's old versions of community that used to really, really fit for you. For me, this is just me and my personal story. I was such a church girl. I was really, really heavily involved for a long period of time in everything, you name it. I was in it, on it, ran the committee, women's groups, Bible studies, volunteering, all the things. And it served me. It really served me for a long season of my life until it didn't. And have I wrestled with enormous guilt and shame over that so much, and fear of judgment from other people. And I came to a place where I don't need to explain that. I don't need to explain that to anyone else. I don't need to apologize for that. I am me. So here's the thing that I want to really, really gently hold your hand on. Your growth is not betrayal. Your evolution is not a confession that your past self was a liar. Your past self was doing the very best that she could with the awareness that she had at the time. And that is not a character flaw. That is what we call being a human being on a path. Welcome to the experience. If you knew everything that you know now, back then, you wouldn't have needed the path at all. What are you here for? We're on a soul's journey, and the soul is here to grow and evolve and grow and evolve. The most spiritually mature thing that you can do is not stay consistent with who you were 5 years ago. If you are consistent in the same, you're not growing, my friends. The most spiritually mature thing that you can do is to be radically honest with who you are today, even when it contradicts who you were yesterday. Is your heart racing? Mine did, just a tiny bit. Shame wants you to be really, really loyal to your past, but truth wants you loyal to your current alignment with the divine. Alongside of you, because as I said, I am not teaching from any mountaintop over here. I am teaching from the trail, and you are on the trail with me. This is something that I remind myself of constantly. I am not built to react in the moment. My clarity doesn't come instantly to me. It comes in waves. And shame wants an instant response. It wants the quick apology, the fast over-explaining, the immediate shrink back before you've ever had a chance to actually feel your way to what is true for you. So the next time that you feel that whisper, that sneaky little contraction from shame, the urge to over-explain yourself, to apologize, to shrink back because, again, maybe you've changed, you've grown, you've pivoted. I want you to do the hardest and simplest thing that there is to do. Do not respond. Period. Let that wave move through you first. Give it a day if you need to. Ask it. Once you've actually landed somewhere because you've given your space to feel into it and to gain some clarity, was that guilt or was that shame, right? If it's guilt, there's perhaps an actual amends to make. There's behavior to own, something to apologize for. And then you own it. Clean and simple. That's it. But if it's shame, there's going to be a very different energy about it. If it's just our ego trying to convince that you're wrong, or you're untrustworthy, or you're fake, you're holding back, then once you've ridden that wave, right? That's why we wait to respond. And we've landed in a place of clarity, your clarity for you, quieting the noise of other people. Place your hand on your chest, hand in your heart. Take in one deep breath and say this out loud or in your head, right? You can say it right now as you're listening to this podcast. I am allowed to change. I am allowed to outgrow who I was. My evolution is not a confession. It's my becoming. I am coming home to who I have always been underneath all the conditioning, all the gunk and junk and the programming. And I release the shame that says I have to stay small to stay safe. Say it again. I am allowed to change. I want you to really feel it in your body. Let it land somewhere. Feeling it helps us to identify where truth lives and where the lies live inside of us. You were never inherently wrong. Right there. That's the truth. You were never a mistake. We make mistakes, but you, true you, are not a mistake. You never were. You are an expression of the divine. Mid-unfolding it all, my friends. And every single version of you, the one from 5 years ago, the one from last week, the one who's showing up right now, listening to this podcast on this day, she was never a problem. She was never the problem. She was just one more layer of the renovation. And there's nothing to be ashamed of in that. You were one more room that got to get gutted, right? And remembered on your way back home. That's what we're doing. We're coming home. I'm going to leave you with this. There is a simple order of hierarchy that I really try and live by that helps me when I'm feeling sticky in my life. It is God, divine source creator, at the very top, right? And then the next one is Jen. And from there is everything else. All the other things in life, all the other stuff. So when we have God first, then for me, Jen finally gets to become Jen, because what I'm doing is I'm coming from source. I am coming from the source of infinite, unconditional love, infinite everything, the all, right? So there's no scarcity in it. There's no shame in it. I can trust it because that's truth, right? Love. Love is the only thing that's real. So if I'm coming from that place and then I fill myself up, I define myself from that place. My identity is rooted there. Then from there flows out everything with ease, so much more ease. And then for me, I get to be me. I don't have to perform. I don't need to defend myself. I don't need to defend old versions of myself. I just trust that order. So all the other things in my life, like the stuff, my business, gosh, I'm recording a podcast episode right now. Like this is coming from my hierarchical, am I saying that correctly? Alignment. And it's not for everyone, right? But I can trust who it's for. It's going to find its proper place out there, and I don't have to force it. I don't need to defend it. I don't need to protect it. I just trust, right? So shame will always try and convince you that consistency, like being consistent in whatever the thing is, fill in the blank, is safety. But the real safety, the real home is in your willingness to continue to keep telling the truth, even when the truth keeps changing and evolving as you grow, where it's changing shape. That's okay. That's actually, like we've said earlier in this episode, a good thing. That means you've got a growth mindset. You are not required ever to defend who you used to be. You don't need to explain yourself. You're only required to be honest about who you are right now in this moment. That's how we be the best me we can be. That, my friends, is the surrender for today. It's not shrinking back into the old version of ourselves just to feel safe or make other people feel cozy, comfy. It's staying present enough, brave enough to continue to come home to the woman that you're actually becoming. I love you. I am so proud of you for growing even when it's really uncomfortable. And I will meet you right back here next week. This has been the Daily Surrender. Come home to yourself. Thank you for joining me on the Daily Surrender. If today's episode spoke to you, I'd love to hear your reflections. Send me a message, share this with a friend, or leave a review. Or remember, true healing and freedom come when we let go, surrender, and trust that God's way is so much better than our way. Until next time, my friends, keep surrendering, keep rising, and keep walking in peace.